Today's episode comes from a listener question, and it's one that I really wanted to dive into because it's something that hit really close to home for me. Now, at the start of last year, I was at the top of my career ladder, like genuinely thought I'd peaked. A founder, CTO, CPO. I had the fancy title, the big salary, all those things that society, school, family, everybody says you're supposed to want. And you get those things and you go, I'm going to be happy, right? Chase all those things, chase those goals that maybe weren't my goals to begin with. We'll get into that. But you chase those things and you think, yeah, that's going to be me set. And no, unfortunately not. Despite all of that, I realized I completely wasn't fulfilled. And I didn't know how I ended up being somewhere that technically it looks really good on paper, right? Ticks all those tick boxes, all that external validation, but it just felt wrong. It wasn't the life I wanted. And I just thought, how the bloody hell did I get here? Like, how? How did I do it? And often we stay in these situations because, you know what? They're fine. They're fine. Mine was fine. More than fine, right? It's all right. And that's often the problem with settling. And that's the topic for today. Why we settle, why we stick with better the devil you know. These things, they don't look like you're struggling. They don't look like a crisis. They don't look like your life is rubbish. Most people on the outside will expect you to be really happy with where you are. But on the inside, maybe your gut instinct's hanging not where you should be. And that could be with a job. It could be with a relationship, could be with a career trajectory. Just something in your life just might be going, nah, I don't know how I've got here, but it isn't where I want to be. So let's start with a bit of a definition because I don't know, like we use settling a lot, right? You settle in something, you settle on something, you settle for something. And people have different interpretations of it. So it's best for me to come at this with, this is my definition of it for this specific scenario. For me, settling is accepting less than what you actually want, what you actually need in work, in relationships, in pay, whatever it is. And usually we do it because the alternative, making a change, feels too risky or it feels too hard to go after. Settling is not the same as compromise, and they can seem similar, right? Compromising is when you make conscious decisions. It's when you agree to meet in the middle and you're choosing to do that. And settling isn't the same as contentment either. Sometimes, we say, oh, we're going to settle down, we're going to do this. And sometimes you can build a life you're very content with and you've settled on somebody, you've chosen it, right? But settling is very different from contentment. Contentment's this genuine peace. It's a happiness with what you've got. You feel good. You don't need to chase more. You're really, really good. You are genuinely content. When we settle, it often feels like something internally is saying we're not fully at peace. We're not completely content, but also we're not moving. We're not changing it. We're just loitering. We're just in this, it'll do. For many of us and for me, what that feels like is it could be like a gut instinct, a niggling feeling, a bit of background noise, and it's like constantly whirring in the background. It's not something that's going to be super loud, not panic stations, not making you stop. It sort of sneaks up. We're not going to wake up and go, oh, today is the day I'm settling. It's like it does just creep up on you. It could be those regular small adjustments, one after the other. You just lowering an expectation here or there. Maybe you're uncomfortable with a compromise. Some compromises are good. We all need compromise in our lives. But sometimes you're compromising the wrong way and you're giving up who you are or your own goals or your own ambitions, your own way of wanting to live your life, whatever that is. And your gut instinct saying, not sure I really want to be here. And unfortunately, we can sit in that. And I've done it multiple times in my life. And one day you wake up and go, wait, this isn't where I want to be. I'm actually a really long way from where I want to be. So that was me last year. I was at what's technically the top of my career ladder. I could have stayed doing that. I could have maybe gone to a different company and continued doing that thing. But that's the default path. That's the path that society dictates. That's the path that is like the normal route, the career ladder, the promotion, the status. Same for relationships, right? Same for so many things in life. We could end up just doing that because it's what everybody expects. And I realized I've been on autopilot. I was people pleasing, probably some RSD from the neurodivergence kicking in there as well. And I was chasing that external validation because, people seem to respect you more if you say you've got these fancy titles or these fancy things. But I just wasn't happy. And somewhere along the lines, I'd forgotten the kind of life, the kind of career that I really wanted to build. And it's odd because years ago, I ran a small business like I do now, where it was just me, where I was free to work in the way that my brain needed. I know now. I need that novelty, right? I need the changes. I need the freedom to go to the gym. I really struggle with a 9 to 5. I need things to be exciting. And I didn't know I was neurodivergent back then. And yet somehow in my 20s, I distinctively built a business that worked really, really well for me. But then over time, I gradually slipped back into the old ways, to the full-time employment, to the cycles of burnout and doing things that didn't work for me. And I didn't realize how fundamental that way of life is to my happiness. And yeah, I'd somehow wandered off this path and settled for a different one. And that path, it wasn't mine. So why do we do it? Why do we settle? And it's not when you're actively choosing to settle down with somebody or settle on a thing because that is like, right, I'm settled now. I know what I'm doing. Settling for something that you feel like you deserve or you need or you want more is something many, many of us do. For me, a big part of that was people pleasing. Oh, people pleasing. I'm a recovering people pleaser. I'm not recovered. I don't know if I ever will be fully recovered from it, but I'm trying. It's also that thing of where, if something makes your boss happy, your team happy, your partner happy, often it's just easier to go along with it, right? Keep the peace. Don't rock the boat. Don't poke the bear, all of those things. And we're often going against what we want to do or what we need to do in order to do that. And many of us learn to do that from a very young age. We learn to fly under the radar, take care of other people before we take care of ourselves. I'm sure many of you can relate to that. And for my fellow neurodivergent folks, the RSD, the rejection sensitivity dysphoria, oh my gosh, the fear of upsetting someone or for being rejected because you said, actually, no, I don't want to do that thing. Actually, I want to do this thing. Oof, that feeling is enormous. And the fear of being disliked, the fear of that rejection can really, really hold us back. And so for many of us, staying quiet and settling in something that might not be right for us is often easier. It's a really low threshold for doing that. There's that common phrase of better the devil you know, right? Many of us have heard of that. And often the bad thing, the thing, or maybe it doesn't always have to be fully bad, right? Something that just isn't quite right. It's a little bit off. Often if you're in that situation, whether it's a role you dislike, whether it's in a relationship that just isn't working for you and your gut might be saying, whether it's living somewhere you don't want to live, a lifestyle you don't want to be living, whatever it is, sometimes sticking with the thing you know, for your brain, that feels safer than the unknown. It's like, the unknown thing might be better. You can look at it and go, objectively, I think that would be better. But our brains, we're wired to weigh a known risk more favorably than an unknown reward. Your brain wants to stick with, look, I know this. It's not comfortable. I don't like it, but at least I know what it is. Whereas if I take that leap of faith, if I follow my gut instinct, if I just do that thing, we don't know what's going to come out of the end of it. And that's a big gamble. And our brains don't like that. We'd rather sit in something uncomfortable than push ourselves out of our comfort zone. It's kind of like the boiling frog analogy, right? The frog in water, where often we'll just sit there. We'll just sit there and we'll simmer away slowly, and you don't notice how bad it's getting, how much you've moved away from your own personal goals until it's too late, until you're burning out, until you just feel really depleted. And often settling for things, it can be almost like a survival mechanism. Our brains are wired for survival. They're wired to conserve energy, to do the easy thing. It's why many of us find it easy to collapse on the sofa at the end of the day and just doom scroll social media, because our brains are wired to just do the happy thing, do the easy thing, do whatever is easiest, not put ourselves in somewhere that's uncomfortable. In the past, we would avoid fighting a bear. We would run away. We would have all of those survival instincts. And yet now what many of us do is we use those survival instincts in our careers, in our relationship, in our situation to do the easy thing, to not put ourselves in the difficult or the hard thing. And I feel like most of the best, most rewarding things that have happened in my life is when I've took a leap of faith, when I've just looked at my life and gone, actually, I'm not happy with that thing. How can I change it? And each time I make life a little bit better for myself. And sometimes I'll fall off that path and I'll go, oh, I've noticed that. I'm going to pull myself back onto my path. Stop following other people's, right? We don't want to be following the motorway through life with everybody else that's on that. What's your path? Find your own way through life. Make a life that works for you, that you love. And this is whether you're neurotypical, neurodivergent, whether you love a 9 to 5, hate a 9 to 5, whatever it is. You might be monogamous, you might be polyamorous, whatever life you want to build it. Build the thing that's happy for you. Don't just heavily compromise and downplay who you are just to keep other people happy. Sometimes we have this thing where, if you just keep your expectations low, if you keep your requirements low, you're not going to be disappointed, right? Because you've got such a low bar, such a low bar. And that can feel safe. But if you never go for the big thing, if you never change your life to make it what you want to be, you're never going to find out if you could have even had that thing. So what does settling cost us? Settling, it can often feel safe. And sometimes you might want to settle on something out of choice. But for those of us that find ourselves, we've somehow settled into this thing that just doesn't feel quite right, and it's not through choice, that cost is often very, very heavy. It might feel safe. It might feel low risk, but over time, it's kind of high risk because the risk is your self-belief, your authenticity, living a life that you love. And the longer you stay somewhere where you're being smaller than you want, where you're losing parts of yourself, you're shrinking, and you're not you. You're not you. And if you're here today and the title of this episode has resonated with you, or if you just happen to find it because of the algorithm, if there's something in your life that you're thinking about, yeah, do you know what? I've settled in this thing. I'm not happy with it. You might have stopped seeing the better options. You might have stopped believing that you can have a better life. But you can. You can. There might well be better options out there. We only get one chance at this life, right? You only get one chance to do this, to do life. So why not live a life you love? Why not try and build a life you love? And you don't have to do big changes. You can just make little ones. You can just make little tweaks here and there just to make life a little bit better for you. You don't have to settle. You don't. Often as well, we'll tell ourselves these stories, right? Of, oh, I know what I'm capable of, and it's this. It's this current level that I am at. And we don't know if we're capable of more. We don't know if we're capable of bigger, of better, of achieving that big goal. And so we stick. And we just stick with, well, I know I'm capable of that, so I'm only going to do that. But for most of us, we are capable of so much more than we let ourselves believe. I think society often doesn't want us to go above where we currently are, right? They often hear this thing called the tall poppy syndrome. It's like, if you stand up out from the crowd, people are going to knock you back down again. And sometimes society, sometimes culture does that. We see it in like the mainstream press. We see it in nasty headlines. But the people that stand up and they fight for the thing they believe in or the thing that they're really passionate about, they're living their fulfilled lives. They're feeling really happy. And I very much doubt they have as many regrets as the people that do just settle. They just sit. And regret is a really, really brutal thing. Like, the research is really consistent. People mostly will regret the things they didn't do, that they didn't try, far more than the things that they tried and didn't work out. My regrets have come from where I've stuck in things for too long, where I've known it wasn't right, where my gut instinct was telling me within the first few weeks, the first few months, and somehow I've stayed there for 6 months, a year, 2 years, multiple years. And you get to the end of it and go, well, I wish I'd listened to myself at the start. But often we don't, right? We go, do you know what? Maybe it'll be okay. Do you know what? Maybe okay. In some cases, maybe it will be okay. But it's not going to be okay just by passively just sitting there and going, let's just settle and see. You've got to actively work to make it okay. And if after a certain amount of time it's not okay, you really need to make a change. Don't just sit there. Don't end up regretting these things. So settling is often, you know what? In some ways it is a choice, but it's like a passive choice. You're making a choice to not go after what you actually want. It's making a choice to just stick with it, to just stick with the better the devil you know, even though you're pretty convinced that maybe there is something out there if you're not happy. And it can be really, really sad. You don't want to live a life like that. Live a life where you can like chase your dreams, where you feel like you're growing, you're improving, you're doing whatever it is that makes you special. All right. Because we don't want you to live a life of regrets. Live a life of dreams, of hopes, of ambitions, of living a life you love. Not something where you're going to get in 10 years' time and go, God, I really regret that choice. Or I really regret sticking for that. Because we don't know how long we've got. I'm not going to make it super emo, despite the goth vibes. But you don't know how long you've got. So why stick? Why stick with something that just doesn't work for you? Now, I do want to give a quick caveat, and this is super important. I'm not telling you to go and impulsively quit your job, to ditch your relationship, to just sell your house and go live somewhere else. I'm not asking you to just jack everything in because that, that would be pretty reckless for many of us. If there's something in your mind now where you're going, this thing, I'm settling and I'm not happy, you don't need to just impulsively rage quit. And I've rage quit jobs before, but usually that comes from burnout. I don't recommend it. I really don't recommend it. It is much better if you can choose a bit of stability and work towards the thing. That's a much more sensible way of going about things, right? The times I've made the sensible decisions, they might look like big, crazy pivots from the outside. When I got rid of all my belongings, I kept maybe like 5%, put them in storage, but the rest I gave to charity and went backpacking, did the digital nomad thing for a while. That might look reckless, but I did a lot of thinking about it. I did a lot of planning. Quitting jobs, sometimes I've done it out of burnout because I knew I needed to do it, and it just burnout hit and I was like, I can't do that anymore. And maybe there was a bit of reckless there, but for the most part, most situations you can get through them with a bit of support, but just work towards the thing you want. Give yourself timelines, give yourself little steps to get you there. And sometimes, actually, things are okay. Like sometimes good enough is just that. Sometimes we're happy with good enough. Sometimes your purpose doesn't need to be what you do day to day in your work. Your purpose can be your family. If you're able to do the school run and work just pays for that, life's good enough. We don't always need to optimize everything, despite what the hustle tech bros will tell you. We do not need to optimize. We do not need to be doing everything at 1,000,000 miles an hour and always go, go, go. So all we need to be doing really is figuring out, are you actively choosing all the parts of your life? Or are there some things that you've just settled into, not by choice, but just sort of out of habit, where you've just sort of stuck away with it. And over time, you've got comfortable with the thing that you were always kind of a little bit uncomfortable in. So what we need to figure out today is, are there areas in your life, could be one, could be many. For me, it's often been multiple things at the same time, where you've not actively chosen it. You've just ended up on that treadmill through life. And before you know it, you've ended up on somebody else's path or living somebody else's dream that isn't your own. Did you actually choose your dreams? Did you actually choose everything in your life right now? Is there something that's popping into your head right now where you think, actually, that isn't for me. I've been uncomfortable with this thing for a while and I probably want to change it. So in order to figure this out, let's do some sort of coaching style questions, because if there is a situation in your mind, it can be really, really hard to know, are you settling? Do you want more? Is it actually good enough? Is it good enough? It might well be. So I'm going to give you a bunch of questions today and we're going to go through them. Just trust your gut instinct on it. If you overthink it, you might struggle. So let's just trust your gut instinct. Listen to what's going on inside. Question number 1. If a close friend, one of your best friends or a family member described your exact situation back to you, what would you tell them to do? What would your advice be? Can you give that advice to yourself? Question number 2. Are you staying in this situation, whatever it is, because you really want to be here? Because you're choosing it? Or are you staying because leaving feels too difficult, too scary? Number 3. Is there a voice in your head? Is there a niggling gut instinct, your intuition? Are you ruminating on something? Is there just something that says this isn't right? Have you been constantly chatting to your friends about this thing over and over and over? I've talked about rumination and open loops multiple times before. If you've been doing that, how long has that thing been there? What is it? And how are you going to close that loop? Because usually that's something telling you you're not happy. Are you settling? And question number 4, if you knew you could try something different, try an alternative, and you couldn't fail, would you still choose to do the thing you're currently doing? Or would you go try that thing? Would you be brave if you just couldn't fail? If you knew you were guaranteed success, would you do it? Of all those questions, I'm probably going to say the third one is the one that matters most. That voice that's going round and round in your head, the rumination, the open loops, that voice doesn't go away on its own. And often we'll chat to our friends about it loads. It's the sort of thing that for me, when that happens, it's what I'm like repeatedly chatting to my therapist about it. And it can take months and months and months for me to finally go, oh, I get it. I need to make that change. Because often we don't want to, right? Because we're scared. We're worried about upsetting people. We're worried about the rejection. We're worried about upsetting the status quo, of being different, of being the tall poppy. But that voice is not going to go away. You're just gonna get used to it, and it's gonna be uncomfortable. But it's there. It's there, even if it gets a bit quieter, even if you get used to it. So let's have one small action to help you with this today. Pick one small area of your life, or one big one if you really want to go all out, but pick one area of your life where you think you might be settling. Just one. We might have multiple. In many cases, I've had multiple. Just pick one today and write down an honest answer to those 4 questions. Are you there because you're actively choosing it right now? Or have you just somehow got here by autopilot? What would your friends tell you to do? And are you just sticking with it because changing it feels too difficult? It feels too scary. Maybe you feel like you're an imposter. Maybe you're worried about what people will say, what people will think. And would you make that same choice today, right now, knowing everything you know now? So just spend some time with that one thing today. And, you don't have to do anything with that. You don't have to go and make a huge change. Just sit there and think about it. Because the more you spend time with it, the more you journal it, the more you think about it, the more likely you are to come to some sort of conclusion. Maybe it isn't perfect, but it's good enough. Or maybe you are really settling in something you want to change. And spending that time today, just thinking about it, will help you move forward. So I'm just going to wrap up today by saying, you deserve more than fine. You deserve more than not that bad. And it can be really hard to fight for those things because often society tells us we don't deserve more. But you deserve to have a go at achieving the thing you actually want. If you want to start that business, if you want to try being an indie game dev for a year, do what you need to do to make that happen. If you want to find a relationship, if you want to find love, whatever those things are, you deserve a really solid attempt at it. I believe in you. I want you to try and do that thing if you can. If you can set just the wheels in motion, don't do knee-jerk things that are going to put you in a precarious position, but slowly work towards it. Try and figure out what that dream is, where you're not just settling, where you're not heavily compromising. Live a life you love. And that's enough to begin with today. Just spend some time thinking about it. Spend some time working out where you might be settling and how you could make your life just that little bit better. All right. If this one has helped you, please do give me a follow, a subscribe. If you can share it with a friend, that would be absolutely great. If you think it would just help them, if you just think they need a little pep talk where you've heard they're not happy in a thing and they're just not making those steps to making their life a little bit better, please do share it with them. And, this episode came from a question that someone messaged me. So if there is something specific that you'd love me to chat about that can help you live a happier life, to help you avoid burnout, to have sustainable success, right? I'm here to help you live a happier life, to live a more successful life, and to do it on your own terms. Please do send me a message at gothboss.co.uk/podcast. I read all of them. I promise you, if you send me messages on there, I will reply. I'm going to pop all the links in the show notes to various ways to get in touch with me. And as always, because it's super, super important, I am not a licensed therapist. I'm not a doctor, a psychiatrist, an accountant, or lawyer, any of that. What I am is a recovering people pleaser who has worked really, really hard. I've survived many, many burnouts, hit the top of that career ladder, doing what society told me I should do. And I realized it didn't fulfill me anymore. And I just wondered, how the bloody hell did I get here? If any of that resonates with you, please do join me on this journey. I will be back here next week. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.